In December of 2021, we undertook a month-long adventure to explore the most remote areas of Namibia. Our journey took us from the most southern part to the most northern part of the country. This is our story.
The Umuru River is the main river that flows east to west through the Erongo region of western Namibia. The river originates in the Ep.2 mountains, flows past the village of Umuru and the settlement of Okombaya. It empties into the Atlantic Ocean a few kilometers north of Henties Bay. We drove through Henties and took the first dirt road in the direction of the Umuru River. At last, it felt like we were heading out of civilization. The Umuru is a beautiful river. Huge camel thorn trees are everywhere, and it's a pleasure driving in this loose river sand. There are a lot of farming settlements along the banks of this river. Aside from the occasional goat or sheep calls and dogs barking, these settlements are hardly visible and not a disturbance at all. A few minutes after we set up camp, making sure we were a distance away from any settlement, we were joined by a local dog. The rest of the night he guarded over us as if he was our own. The next morning his owner came to meet us. After a nice chat, we offered a donation for the use of the campsite. He humbly accepted and left with our dog.
Today we are heading for Spitzkoppe. The kids are very excited as we will be meeting up with my parents. They will be traveling with us for the next couple of days.
Spitzkoppe is a group of bold granite peaks located between Isakos and Swakopmund in the Namib Desert of Namibia. The granite is more than 120 million years old, and the highest outcrop rises about 1,728 meters above sea level. The peaks stand out dramatically from the flat surrounding plains. The highest peak is about 670 meters above the floor of the desert below. Many examples of Bushman artwork can be seen painted on a rock in the Spitzkoppe area. There are 31 campsites at Spitzkoppe, but they are well spaced apart, so you can easily pick a spot where you will feel absolutely secluded from civilization.
We are headed for the Uhop River. We will be accompanied by my cousin Luan and his friend Pieter. They are locals and the Uhop is like their giant playground. We met up in the tiny town of Uys and hit the road. The Uhop River is located in the northwestern region of Namibia. Its lower portion forms the border between the Kunene region and the Erongo region. The Uhop source is near Utawi. We were barely in the river when Luan and Pieter pointed out the first signs of the desert elephants roaming the river. Some fresh tracks were laid in the road as we were driving. Driving in the Uhop is a lot different from the Umuru. You mostly drive in a two-spur track through dense reeds. It is also very dusty. Luan and Pieter assured us that this was definitely not the case after the river got its first water during the rainy season. Apparently it turns into a giant mud puddle, and if you do not know what you are doing, you can get stuck for days. It was after midday, and after almost a whole day's driving with no elephant sightings, we were about to give up hope as we turned a corner and came across a beautiful elephant bull. I don't know who was the most surprised, him or us. We camped under a magnificent rock face, one of many mind-blowing campsites on our journey.
Today we are heading for Twyfelfontein via De Vos Pass, our first real challenge on this trip. Some of us were looking forward to a day of technical driving, while others were trying to find out if Luan and Pieter had some space left for an extra person to take along back to Swakopmund. We said our goodbyes to the gentlemen and we were off. My mother-in-law's nightmare was about to start.
Jy moet net nou by 3 punt draai uitkom nie en ek het gesê ons is op pad, ons kom.
It was very clear where this pass got its name from. The spars were made out of sharp rocks and boulders, and one must be very aware of your tire pressure and the track of your wheels. This is the last place you would like to change a tire. Once you get on top of the escarpment, the views are spectacular. We then head into our third river, the Uhop. The Uhop River is in the Kunene region of northwestern Namibia. Its source is southwest of Kamiap, from where it flows westwards through the Mopani savannas until it reaches the Skeleton Coast and the Atlantic Ocean. The scenery is remarkably varied and dramatic. Camelthorn, Mopani and other trees line the sides of the riverbed. Huge sandy valleys are dotted with gigantic boulder outcrops and rocky hills. Red rock mountains punctuate the horizon, and massive sand dunes studded with black volcanic rocks make the vehicles driving below them seem tiny.
Twyfelfontein is an oasis in the middle of the desert, not only in the true sense of the word, but also when it comes to overlanding. Here you can find fuel as well as fill up all your water tanks with clean drinking water. For us, it was our first fuel and water since we left Swakop. Just before sunset, we were back on the road into the Uhop River. We found a nice spot and set up camp for the night. The next morning we are on our way to Kamiap to meet up with the Vissers, our touring companions for the rest of our tour. We drove down the Uhop River and into the upper Uhop. This was definitely the river with the best animal sightings so far. We saw a lot of giraffe and 2 herds of elephant. A privilege to see these truly wild animals. No fences, no parks, free to roam these rivers as they please.
We took the Risport 4x4 trail to meet up with the main gravel road that leads to We made it to Kamiap just before 5. filled up some much needed supplies before meeting up with our new friends. There was no time to spare. We needed to find a camping spot in the Uhop River.
Our next stop was Warmkwelle, or on Gonu Hot Springs as it is known by the locals. We had a quick stopover at Sesfontein and Sonia showed us one of the treasures when traveling in these remote areas, vet cookies. Children beg for sweets along the roadside. I sometimes think sweets is the first word many of them spoke. It is tough to say no, but if possible, rather give them something healthy to eat.
After a lot of traveling the last couple of days, my sister and I were very excited to get to the hot springs. The hot spring and waterfall was worth the wait. We had a lot of fun. We camped at the community campsites. Each campsite had its own bathroom and kitchen area with hot and cold water.
In the next episode, we will be celebrating Christmas, visit a few waterfalls, and camp on the banks of the mighty Kunene River. That is, of course, if we survive on Sales Pass. So please like and subscribe so you don't miss out.